Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. So welcome back to our final session in the series. So far, we have covered audience analysis, pre and post interview etiquette, how to cover a bad story, and then today we'll be talking about press releases and how to engage the media sector in your coalition, including recruitment and maintenance of that sector representation. So for the first portion, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to talk to us about press releases.
All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for showing up today. It's great. What we're going to cover today is press releases, how to write a good one and how to avoid writing a bad one. And then go into how you can get more media attention for your coalition. If you are looking to get media coverage for your coalition or a specific event or issue, knowing how to write a press release is an essential skill. But what should a good press release include? Step one is something you should be very familiar with at this point. Know your audience. Before you get started, it is most important to start with choosing the right angle that matters to your target audience. And you may have to create separate press releases for each target audience. It's also important to keep in mind that you're not only targeting potential readers, but also journalists. So what goes into a good press release? Casey Scher from Nahagian Strategies shares that by following a standard press release structure, you're ensuring that a journalist knows how to find what they're looking for in your release and allowing them to quickly determine if they want to cover your announcement. It also shows them that you're a seasoned PR pro who knows the ins and outs of a press release and signals that you're easy to work with. The press release structure we're going to be covering today includes the following elements. Heading. Your press release needs to have a catchy headline or a subject line if you're emailing it in order to be successful. It's the first thing people read, and based on that, they will decide on whether they want to read the whole thing or even open the email. Try to keep it short. This way, it's easier to read, it looks more appealing, and as long as it's no more than 110 characters, people might even tweet about it. Make it fresh, newsworthy, and interesting, as the whole decision-making process takes about 3 seconds. And we have some good and bad headlines.
Yeah, so we created a little poll to see if you guys can pick out the good or the bad headlines. I'm going to launch. You might have to launch it for me. It says someone's logged in from another device, so I'm guessing somebody from our team. If somebody from our team is on the call and can launch the poll for me, maybe Lisa, I don't know if you're logged in. Okay.
I can do it.
Okay, yeah, it's giving me a message that I'm logged in from another device, so it's inactive. So if you can try to release it, if not, we can just keep going forward.
We have 1 vote, so it must be working.
It did?
Okay, so the first one is AWY finds no change in youth substance use. Good or bad? All right. We're all in agreement that it's bad. This is dull. Reporters find no reason to report on no change. It's totally not newsworthy. So we all got that one right, unless we want to debate it. And how do we get to the second one? End poll?
Yeah, and then there should be a second poll that you can launch for each of these.
Okay, share results. Okay. Let's see, here we go with number 2. Community Advocates offers new workshops on mental health in Spanish. Good or bad?
Alex says it's good.
Whoop, forgot to launch it. much coffee did I have this morning?
Everyone's in Thanksgiving mode, so you're fine.
All right, so we all agree that this is a good one because it's short. There's something new. There's something unique because I don't think there are a lot of mental health workshops delivered in Spanish in Milwaukee right now. So that would be really interesting. We're going to end that poll and we'll go to number 3. And this one is, the state of Wisconsin identifies underage drinking in college as an emerging issue. All right, and Paul, we're going to share the results. This is great. We got controversy. 2 folks thought it was good. 1 thought it was bad. And I have my own thoughts too. Anyone want to talk about whether or not you thought it was good or bad?
It did a lot of just looking at our little diagram here. It did a lot of things you want to do. I think the only weakness, if there is one, is if it's really a good hook, like if it really catches your attention. But it does a lot of the where does the information come from, state the issue, all that.
Yeah. I thought it was okay. Like he said, it satisfies all the requirements. I just like don't know if it's something that as a reporter I would want to report on, because it's not really like newsworthy. It's just kind of like, okay, this is something that I think we all know. So I don't know. If there was an option for satisfactory but not catching, that would have been my choice.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely room for improvement for this one. If I was a reporter, I would be like, not worth my time. You know, I mean, there's nothing new in here. We've known that underage drinking in college has been an emerging issue probably for as long as there have been colleges, right? So what is the new information? All right, anyone else want to talk about this headline? All right, okay. All right, moving on. The next step is to craft an intro or a lead. This is basically the same process as developing your elevator pitch. You need to answer the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. It should be long enough to cover the essentials, but short enough to keep it interesting. Don't waste the journalist's time. You have to pique their curiosity and not give them all details at once. That said, it's almost like you're writing a news article at this point, and I think you would be shocked to find out like how many news articles are taken directly from press releases. So do the work for the reporter and get all of that information out there right up at the top of the press release. If you're citing a source, make sure that the source is solid. It may be a government report. It may be the report that your coalition created, but make sure that it could be, you know, solid data, but make sure that it is totally credible. And cite your sources, because then the reporter can cite the sources as well and evaluate, you know, what's going on. Also, you're not going to be able to cover every detail from the report or from the source, but they will be able to take a look, and now that you've piqued their interest, and grab more details for their story. I totally don't recommend displaying the whole URL to the source unless you're citing the source at the bottom of the press release. So use anchor text. You know, on my computer, that's Control K, and popping in the URL, and make it easy to click and get to. Then you're going to have your essentials. Explain why this is interesting and any further information that a reporter or your audience is going to need to know. This is where you can kind of expand on what's in your lead. Then you can also use quotes. I love using quotes. I love using quotes. And this is a good way to highlight your partners if you're doing something within a coalition. Allow, pick maybe 2 coalition partners and have them submit quotes or work on a quote with them. It's really nice to localize it, and it just kind of opens things up. And again, reporters will use them. Contact information. If you have an event, I like to have all of that all the event details like in a bulleted list in the middle of the press release, and to bold it as well. If you're going to be the media contact, put that in bold or italics. Let the reporter know that they can follow up with you to schedule an interview, or if they have any other questions. Make that really easy to find. And then there's this boilerplate stuff at the bottom of the press release. The anything else section could be used for relevant photos or videos. That is true. Thanks. And anyway, so the boilerplate, that's basically just like a sentence or 2 about your work or your agency. And you can use your elevator speech or your mission statement. It's a great use of it. Sometimes I tailor it to the press release to highlight substance use or issues related to poverty or whatever it is, but it's basically your elevator speech. Anyone have any questions? No, we just kind of blasted through a lot. Okay, then we can talk about common mistakes. The first one, the story isn't actually newsworthy. That's underage drinking in college. So if you are drafting a press release, think about whether or not your story is actually a story. Is it new? Is it interesting? Will people outside of your organization really care about it? If the answer to these questions is yes, then it's a good reason to write a press release. If not, rethink your approach. Maybe there is something interesting there, but you just haven't quite nailed it yet. 2, not getting to the point quickly enough. Nail the story in the first few sentences. If it's an event, explain the event and why people should show up. That's enough for a reporter to grab a hook and run with it. If it's a report or you're commenting on an issue, do it in a paragraph. Don't beat around the bush, get the facts out quickly and succinctly, and the chances of a press release making it from the reporter's inbox to an editorial meeting will increase dramatically. Journalists are pushed for time more than ever before, so the importance of communicating the bones of the story in the first few lines of a press release is vital. They may not read the whole thing, but give them enough information to be hooked. And poor timing. Timing is crucial for press release success, especially in today's turbulent times. It's important to take time to see how your news fits into the greater community conversation. Is it too soon? Is it too late? You never know. Then we have some examples of good and bad press release activity.
Yep, so just to help you out, Lisa, I've dropped in the link if everyone wants to open it up so that they can read through this example.
Okay.
And then if you want to kind of lead that discussion for us. So I dropped that in so people can open it up and actually read it.
All right, so any thoughts on this press release? We can
Yeah,
start.
when I was reading it, it was just like really hard to follow, and I think they like had so much data in it that I kind of got lost in the numbers, and like they switched back and forth from using like actual like numeric numbers and like word numbers. So to me, it was just really kind of hard to read like the flow and like the different bolding and like the letters. So I just kind of I didn't retain one thing that I read.
Okay. Any thoughts on the subject line or the heading, which is record-setting fundraiser? I would say there's room for improvement. It's great that that's a newsworthy bit, record-setting fundraiser, but whose fundraiser is it and what is it for? I feel like this press release assumes that the reader is already familiar with the Grand Finale charitable collection and their fundraiser since it's their 26th. I'm not. It sounds like it's a Polish fundraiser and I just don't know anything about it. So I think here again, if this is going out to an American audience, we have no clue what this is about, but maybe for a Polish audience, it makes a whole lot of sense. Any other thoughts?
The illustration almost looked like a lottery to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of, I don't want to say an oxymoron, but it looks like something else outside of the verbiage, but it looks like lottery. I would have used different graphics, I guess. I don't know.
It's just a little bit off. Again, it's just not really connecting, but maybe this is the logo and the graphics that they use throughout their campaign. So, maybe this is the way that they branded it. I speak a little bit of Polish, but not enough to be able to translate what this is, what the graphic is saying. Maybe it's just totally obvious. I don't know. Anyhow, I think they did some things right. Definitely, there's a lot of data. If a reporter wanted to run with it and report on the outcomes of the fundraiser, then they certainly have enough data to draw from. And I like that quote a lot. And it sounds very humble. The other thing I liked about this press release is that they talk about the impact of the funds on the children and what that'll do. And I think that's a really good tip to use when you are writing a press release. It's not going to your organization, technically it is, but it's going to the people that you're serving. So remember that. Anything else we want to say about this one? All right. I think we have another one.
This one we'll just read from the slide and then people can get it.
Okay. Any thoughts? Do we just want to put this in chat or should we talk about it?
Let's drop those in chat. We'll switch it up. Okay, Gloria, notice the according to insert, yeah. One thing I noticed is it says, hi, Paul. I'm assuming not everyone you're going to reach out to is going to be named Paul, so keeping it more general might be helpful.
Are we looking at this and trying to see if it's a good attempt at a pitch to get somebody to run a
Yes.
story?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think we'll move on. You can drop any thoughts in chat as those come up if you have more things to add.
I think maybe this press release put everyone to sleep.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No words.
Yeah, it's dull. To me, it sounds like he's lecturing Paul. He or she's lecturing Paul. And also, don't we already know that people use social media for marketing? I mean, it is 2021. Again, it's like college students drinking. Not exactly new news. So try not to bore the reader.
Right.
Anything you want to discuss about press releases before moving on?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think one thing that the writer did do well was the last sentence when he was when they were talking about how doing so can place them behind competitors. I feel like out of all of the things that he wrote, that might be the most interesting piece. And sorry, it looks like my internet connection is not stable, but I think that that was like a catch that would make me want to read. And
I think this whole thing could have been like 2 sentences.
how's putting me behind. So, I mean, if anything, I would have added that like to the beginning of the whole whole release or the whole request.
Yeah.
That would have been my first sentence, not my closing.
That is called burying the lead. And I agree with you.
Awesome. You guys are experts now at critiquing these.
All right, so we're going to move on to Hannah.
All right. So we're going to move on to recruiting the media sector. So if you're missing the media sector representation in your coalition, the first thing you'll want to do is obviously brainstorm how we can get these people to the table. So in this series, we've focused on media personnel to mean reporters or journalists, but I think it's also important to note that media personnel can also include people in the marketing and advertising fields, as well as social media influencers or persons of influence within your community. In session 2, we covered some of the ways that you can get connected to media personnel specifically, such as paying attention to which reporters cover the issues related to your work, developing a media list by researching local news websites, print publishers, and then of course, good old-fashioned networking and providing your business card. But today we want to look at some other ways that you can recruit people from the media. So the first way you can do this is to use what you have. So think about who is in your coalition. Think about what sectors you do already have represented, and if they have a connection to anyone in the media sector. If they do, ask for an introduction, or at minimum, connect with them on social media. This is helpful. It's also helpful to think about what your coalition members' involvement in communications might be. So you might have a faith-based sector representation in the coalition, and they create or develop the church bulletin each week. You might have a coalition member's spouse or family member who works at a local radio station. That doesn't mean they necessarily are the hosts, but they're in the building with the people that you're interested in. Coalitions and its members collaborate with a variety of different agencies and sectors, and chances are that somewhere there is a mutual connection with someone in the media sector. Another option for recruiting is to think about the campaigns the coalition has run. Did you use a graphic designer or a marketing agency to help you create the messaging or the graphics for the campaign? If you have, consider inviting them to become a member of your coalition, assuming that they live in the community that you're serving, and then ensure that they know the relationship is mutually beneficial. So the coalition needs their perspective and expertise, and then they are looking to build their client base, and hopefully they'll want to be a part of bettering the community that they live in as well. Which kind of brings me to the last strategy for recruitment, is to leverage the feel-good aspect when making any of those connections that we've talked about. So it feels good to do good things. Coalitions like yourselves are actively making a difference in your communities, and most people care about the health of their community and definitely care about the health of their families and their young people. Sometimes people can be turned off by the word prevention or even substance use. It can be beneficial to talk about the coalition in terms of improving community health or creating positive youth development opportunities. Then when they come to their first meeting, they will come to learn what it is the coalition does and works on. Just a word about culture and diversity. So it's critical for coalitions to include representatives from diverse communities. It ensures that the work of the coalition is representative of viewpoints of those communities within communities. So taking time to discuss differences in language, communication style, attitudes, and traditions of potential coalition members is important. Expressions sometimes hold very different meanings for members of diverse cultural groups, and health and human service professionals often fail to realize the jargon that they use and how confusing this language can be. So I'm sure that's something you guys hear all the time, but it's just a good reminder, especially when we're looking to recruit media outlets in our community, thinking about different groups and what media they might return to. Any questions about the recruiting section? Okay, so engaging the media. So we are still dealing with COVID-19 and its effects, but many coalitions have struggled to maintain member engagement in any of the sectors. So we wanted to find a few ways that you can hopefully engage the media sector. So if you know someone in the marketing or advertising field, one small way that you can incorporate them in the work is to ask if you can send them some of your materials to look over messaging and for advice. This could be someone that you've worked with in the past, or maybe ask a local agency to volunteer their time to assist with messaging when the coalition needs it. So this is a good small task that somebody in the media can take on and doesn't require a large commitment from them, but it's still getting the eyes of a media person on maybe a campaign that you're putting together, or even a flyer. And then what also would be helpful when doing that is creating a job description for your media sector representation. So including what tasks you want them to take on, the commitment level of the position, and then reviewing and updating that as your needs change. And you can use that job description to advertise what help you're looking for. Don't be afraid to ask people for help and be persistent. Another way to engage the media in your coalition would be through media sponsorships. Sponsor packages that are designed to attract media sponsors must describe the organization in terms attractive to targeted sponsors, and then detail the benefits based on those sponsors' needs. So looking at creating a sponsor package, to prepare for that, you would want to do some initial research. So find out who the different media outlets are sponsoring and what kind of arrangements they favor. You might have some options from your media list that we talked about in session 1. So that would be a good place to start. Hopefully some of your contacts there would be available to do this as well. Choose 5 to 6 potential media sponsors as your initial targets, and then just make sure that you meet their minimum requirements for your sponsorship. And then to move into a kind of assembling the package, you want to make sure that your media kit is ready to hand over, and then adding a couple of items in there for the sponsorship, and those would be a more detailed profile on the coalition, and then a list of the expectations from your media sponsors. And then just going over some things to think about as you're creating those 2 items. The first, you'll want to customize your profile to appeal to those target media companies. So for print media, emphasize activities that would yield interesting photographs and may be the subject of articles. For broadcasters, list events that are suitable for live coverage or that will provide compelling video clips. You also want to customize the list of expectations that you have for different companies. So for example, broadcast media, you might request coverage on a local news program and to include you in ticket giveaways or contests. And then now that we kind of talked about giving the sponsor the list of what you expect, it also helps if you prepare a list of benefits for the media sponsor. So include things like the number of the people who will come to your events, the number of people involved in the coalition, the number of events, programs, or publications you will have, and then offer to place your sponsors' logos or names in prominent locations on those publications. And then the last piece, you'll want to write a cover letter introducing the coalition and asking the media for their sponsorship. And obviously you'll want to customize those for each of these companies as well, and mention things like the best of the benefits of the media sponsor, refer to the other materials in the package that they can find, any campaign materials or anything else that's included in your media kit, just kind of mentioning what's available in the package. And in our resource document that we'll send out, we have some links to sample letters. We have a sample proposal package, and this whole process we covered can be a way to engage somebody from the media to take on this this task and complete it on behalf of the coalition. It can be also something a coalition work group takes on. I know it sounds like a lot of upfront work, but once you have some of these basic items developed, you'll just be changing it for the event or for the issue that you're wanting to get attention on. Any questions about this section? Okay. So retaining the media sector membership. So now that you've recruited and you've begun to engage the media sector, we want to share a few ways that you can retain these members. So setting clear expectations is crucial. Make sure that the media sector rep knows upfront what the coalition expects from them so that they can negotiate what they are willing and able to give of themselves. Meeting one-on-one can provide a safe venue for this dialogue to happen. And more generally, coalitions should have a general set of requirements or expectations for all members. And then the next piece would be to talk often about the goals of the coalition and then the progress towards them. Members are more likely to remain active when it is clear that their efforts are necessary and are helping to drive the coalition towards achieving tangible value goals. For example, explain in your one-on-one with the media sector rep the importance of having a good communication strategy and thoughtful messaging. And then lastly, celebrate your members' contributions. So consider a variety of ways to highlight the work of our members. So for the media sector, this might be a shout out for landing an interview with a local news station to talk about the new program the coalition is implementing in the school system. Any questions? Okay, that is everything that I had. We got done a little bit earlier, but if anyone has any other questions or just things they want to discuss further about any of the sections we covered, I can open that up for discussion now.
I had a question. So on the slide where we talked about like representation and like culture, so like what, like I feel like some, especially like let's say when it's like Pride Month and then all of a sudden these businesses start, you know, promoting like pride propaganda and things like that that they didn't before. So like how do you kind of naturally start implementing this in your own work, so it's not just so stark when it happens, like, oh, of course now they're using representation because they want us to come to this event or something like that. Like how do organizations be able to, I think it's important to acknowledge that maybe they haven't used like enough representation in the work before, but like how do they proceed forward without it being kind of more of like a marketing scheme versus, I guess, like a, like I really mean this, you know?
Yeah, I think I have an answer and then I will let Lisa give her input. I think for coalition specifically, I think it's the best way is to just involve the representation in your coalition so that you're not, it is from a genuine place. It is coming from people that you've actually talked to and not trying to create something for someone without even involving them. I don't know what we can do about other companies who try to do that, but I don't know if Lisa has any thoughts other than that, but that's what I would think.
Yeah, I agree with Hannah. It's basically showing up throughout the year. Show up throughout the year and people will know you're genuine.
Any other questions or thoughts? All right, hearing none, we can end our session a little early. But like I said, we'll have some samples and templates for some of the pieces that we talked about today. And once the recording is downloaded, I'll make sure to share that as well if you want to share it with any of your coalition members or anything like that. But thank you all for your time. I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving holiday if you celebrate. Thank you. Thanks to Lisa for doing this series with me too.
Thank you everyone for showing up. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for having this. It's been really great.
Yes, this has been so helpful. Thank you all so much.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.